Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
Ceiling that this game of life we play ain't fair. Seems as fast as we can make it, there's a hand that grabs and takes it till they find us in a grave somewhere. Like a rodent on a treadmill, we keep pushing for it uphill, but we never seem to get too far. Well, if you think you're being taken, then you're ready to awaken to the truth of what we really are. We're all indentured, servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, who have lost our sole posterity through ignorance and apathy, and now we're being taxed out of our graves. And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb, contented with some socialistic crumb. Well, the naked truth and fact is we're all saps who pay our taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us dumb. Could the state of our condition be the product of omission, what we didn't learn in public schools? And did our fathers all through history all fight and die for liberty so we could play the tyrants' fools? And can you call it education when it's all indoctrination to obey the hidden powers that be? Did we fight the revolution? Did we win the world wars just to slumber into slavery? We're all indentured, servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, who have lost our sole posterity through ignorance and apathy, and now we're being taxed out of our graves. And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb, contented with some humanistic crumb. Well, the naked truth and fact is we're all saps who pay those taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us dumb. While Franklin and Eleanor were telling us they hated war, they made a deal behind our backs. They said the bankers could enslave us for a portion of our wages, and today we call it income tax. But what they failed in to tell us was the way they planned to sell us into statutory slavery. Now it's called constructive fraud. Some even claim the wrath of God. I call it social insecurity. Let's stop being indentured, servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, and reclaim our lost posterity. Rise up and proclaim liberty. It's high time we rock the boat and make some waves. 'Cause as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb. They'll starve us on their communistic crumb. And the naked truth and fact is we don't have to pay those taxes. Yes, it's time we show those banksters, those international gangsters. So let's turn the tables and spoil all their fun.
That's all.
My name is Dan. You're watching the Jeff Davis Show. I tape his shows every week. I send them to New York. That's my little bit. That's what I do to try to help out. There's nothing like this in New York, I guarantee you.
Hello, Austin, Texas. I guess which one are we at here? We are back for now, and I emphasize for now, of course, because of the what's going on down here. We've got what I believe to be an excellent show today. We're going to be talking about the latest globalist shenanigans. If we could quickly get a close-up of this. Can we get a shot of this, Linda? Maybe not.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. See if you can get a shot on that. We're going to be talking about this later on in the program about, back it up just a hair. Internationalists put America last in Bill Clinton's White House. And it's talking about, you know, that friendly group called the Council on Foreign Relations. And basically, we're just going to be talking a little bit about this. But that's good enough. Okay. See, this is a list of some of the members of the federal government who are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Although we're CFR members amount to a fraction of we're flushed out again. Amount to a fraction of 1% of the total population. They control virtually all major policy-making positions at the highest levels. While there is a constant and ongoing change of personnel in key positions, CFR members are invariably appointed to these posts. So, it just goes on here to talk about various little things. So before we get to that, folks, and later on in the program, after we discuss some of the latest globalist plans, including, I want to briefly talk about Lady Diana, a rafting trip that we took down the Guadalupe on September the 1st, and which I ended up injuring my big toe, but that's another issue. And what happened to us there. I'm also going to touch about some of the latest news events of the week, including Bosnia, the current update on Bosnia, what's going on there, and Fast Track, which is nothing more than a weapon for the World Trade Organization. So with all that, this will be coming up later. Before that, now folks, we were scheduled, as I mentioned last week, to have radio talk show host Joyce Isaacs join us. And unfortunately, Joyce is ill. Apparently she missed, yeah, I understand that. Apparently she missed her show Friday. She barely made it today, but she was unable to make it to our program tonight. We missed that because Joyce is fun to have down here. However, we do have her on the phone, and I want to just preface this with, first off, it will be 3 weeks ago this coming Wednesday when I lost a very special friend. And quite frankly, when this dog, my dog's name was Pepper. She was one dog that we had, and she died of heart failure on August 27th of this. Just 3 weeks ago, it'll be this Wednesday, at about 4:30 p.m. and actually in a vet office. And let me just mention to you folks that right here's a picture of her. When Pepper passed away 3 weeks ago, when Pepper died 3 weeks ago, a part of me died due to the fact that she was very special to me, and I'm still suffering from the loss of losing my little baby, because she was my baby. And like I said, when she died, a part of Jeff Davis died as well. So we're going to continue to talk about her. And we've also got another instance that happened today involving our producer. Apparently, we're going to go ahead. Well, let me just preface this, because I understand she's going to be the doctor in all of this. And we need a doctor right now, folks. At least I do. We also had today, we had the producer of this program, one of the producers of this program, his dog also passed away today. And we have pictures. Do we have the pictures of both the dogs? Okay. But with that, we're going to go ahead and bring up somebody on the air that I believe can relate to this, at least in part. And her name is Joyce Isaacs. And she, many of you know that watch this program, she's a local radio host here in town. And unfortunately, she was unable to make it down here for our 3-hour show down here tonight. She has appeared a few times before, but unfortunately, Joyce, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Just barely. Can you turn up the audio there a little bit, Linda?
Can you hear me now?
We're going to turn up the audio. Joyce, it's a pleasure to have you call in. I know that you're not 100%, dear.
Oh, well, I'm not ill. I'm suffering from an injury. I have a whiplash that I got, I guess, about 13 or 14 years ago. And once in a while, if it would rain, it would certainly help me. You know, old age is, and whiplash. Don't laugh, Jeff.
No,
But,
I'm not laughing, Joyce. I've taken enough knocks to last.
But anyway, the main thing I'm doing the last week or so is taking saunas, trying to feel better. I'm probably the cleanest person on this block in my neighborhood. But we're going to talk about dogs, right?
Well, let me ask you, Joyce, how are you? So you're coming along okay, or?
Oh yeah, I just have this happens to me periodically, and I probably lifted a puppy, one of my dogs, or something, and the weather bothers me. You know, when it gets real dry, then it's just whiplash, and that's all there is to it. And I thought it was a joke until I experienced it. So here I am, and I just need to kind of be careful for the next week or so. But
well, can we tentatively get you on somewhere down the road?
Somewhere down the road,
Okay.
and on a safe road without another whiplash. I had a wreck. Of course, every time I've had a wreck, Jeff, I might as well tell you this, or had any kind of incident in my car, some man has run into me. Do you hear me?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Joyce.
Anyway.
Is that a joke?
No, it's the truth, but it sort of is a joke there. Anyway,
So how are you doing? Let's tell the viewers how you're doing. So other than your whiplash,
I'm just, well, I have a sick puppy too. One of my West Highland Terriers, Monty, he's under the care of Texas A&M and 2 local vets. He's had a problem. He's about 8 years old, and you know, we have 2 Westies. Glenn and I absolutely adore these dogs. And then I have a huge white German Shepherd named Glenn's Leonardo da Vinci. So I've got lots of puppies, and I understand loving animals, Jeff.
well, I'll just mention to you, Joyce, that when Pepper died, and everybody that's close to me knows this, when she died, this little baby here died. We had her for part of me died, and it'll never be. That void will always be there till I'm dead.
Well,
So,
you have a big hole in your heart right now.
yeah.
That's what it is. You have a big hole in your heart, and my children, my husband, the 4 of us absolutely love animals. And I think, in particular, I'm a dog lover. I like cats. In fact, I like almost anything. I've never had a snake as a pet, and I don't plan to. But I like all kinds of animals, and I think that loving animals is an important part of learning to be a good person.
Let me just go back a little bit, Joyce. She died. We got back from our trip from Ohio, which we always take our dogs on our trips with us, and she was doing relatively good from a skin problem that she had. She was on antibiotics and whatnot. But at about 2 weeks after there she is.
Mm-hmm.
But about 2 weeks after we got back from our Ohio trip in June, she started. I noticed she started to bloat up, mm-hmm. and like she was getting fat or pregnant or both, and essentially what it was her little heart had given out on her, and her heart wasn't pumping fast enough or hard enough to push the fluids through her body, so she was literally drowning in her own liquids. And so what I'd have to do is I'd have to go and get her drained. I took her to a heart specialist. I did everything that I thought I could do, and but I had to go get her dried. They have to go stick this needle in her abdomen and in her chest to drain out those fluids. Mm-hmm. And the day that she died, on August 27th, I was rushing her down, and she was in terrible shape. But I was very, very selfish, and I was rushing her down to the vet to get her drained again, to hope that maybe she'd make it through that night or another night or two.
That you could have her a few more hours.
And she died in the car, and just as I went to grab her, as I got to the place, her little head she went poof, and her little head just fell back, and I went berserk for about 45 minutes in that vet office. Mm-hmm. And basically I cried like a baby for a week, Joyce.
No, I think you cried like a real man.
So,
see, I think it takes a real man to cry over losing a pet. I really do, and I guess I don't particularly like people that can't cry over pets, Jeff. I don't really have a lot of use for people that can't love. People that can't love people, people that can't love pets. And you know, one of the ways that children learn to love other people is through having pets. There's some interesting facts about that. You know, people think, oh, Joyce is just she's radical about loving dogs and da-da-da-da-da. But let me tell you something. Do you realize that those marginal people we call serial killers sometimes start out by abusing and killing small animals? This is one of the patterns that goes with that, because they have. If you don't have empathy for a little creature, how are you going to progress and grow up and have empathy for other people? And that's one of the things that happens. And then also, do you realize that the ASPCA, the Humane Society, their law was the first law used in the United States in New York to bring charges against a person who had abused a little girl. I think the little girl had been maybe confined, maybe tied to a bed or something to keep, and she was so terribly abused and kept in the house or in the apartment, what have you. There were no laws on the books, and the ASPCA, someone used their law to bring that to the courts, and there is still a division of the Humane Society that has the interest of children. So I don't think a lot of people realize what animal lovers have done. They really set the pace for trying to protect our helpless children in this society. Then another fact this is a recent phenomenon that's happened in the state of California. When people bring animals to a shelter and the authorities ascertain that animal has been abused, they call human services, because usually, Jeff, in a family where a pet's been abused, you will find a child that's been abused, or a wife that's been abused, or even perhaps a husband. But it goes right along. So do you see all the things that dogs do for us? And we haven't even talked about the fact that they also provide wonderful services for our police, for blind people. My gosh, how wonderful it is to have a dog companion who can make you mobile and get you out when when you don't have all your sight. This is absolutely wonderful. And sometimes we just forget that dogs do so much to make us good people.
I think they've misspelled your name, didn't they? That one.
What, D-O-G-G? Okay, it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
But go ahead, Joyce. I'm sorry. I think
no, dogs have. The thing about a puppy is, or any kind of dog. When you have a dog, Jeff. Now I know that Pepper was like this. When you would come home, it doesn't matter what kind of day you'd had. It doesn't matter if you left in an ugly mood. When you come through that door, was she happy to see you?
Yeah, she. That particular breed there is actually, it's the toy terrier breed. They're really hard to get. We've been trying to find another one, and of course you can't really replace the bond, but
No.
But that particular breed has a tendency of attaching themselves to one person in their family, and I just, fortunately for me, happen to be that person. So let me just also mention, Joyce, that in this footage, there's little Nip Nip. That's her little baby there.
That's her little son, right?
He's still with us.
Little Nipper.
Yeah. And coming up here, I believe, well, maybe not, but we also have some footage of Rusty, who is Mike's dog, who passed away today.
Well, and the thing about Mike's dog is that Mike's children are, I guess they've had that dog all their lives, Jeff.
Yeah.
That dog Rusty is 13 years old. And those kiddos that's part of their life. And I can imagine that they are feeling this loss. I know the hurt, the deep down.
Right there's both of them that are now,
Okay, now which one's Rusty?
He was the one that was just in the,
okay, to the right.
There's my little two.
Yeah. He was Yeah, and he had been in a little accident and lost his leg, and they were going to do some surgery on him, and he just didn't make it.
Right.
But Jeff's kids, he has a son and a daughter, and they have had Rusty as a part of their family and part of their life all of their life.
I keep saying to Mike, though, the hurt, I don't believe the hurt is near as severe with me as with him, because...
You know, I think this is rather amusing to me because...
Hello? Is she?
Are you there?
Yes, well, I don't
Okay.
know what happened.
Okay, when I work with crime victims, this seems to be something that's universal. One person will say to me, you know, my mother was murdered, and they start to tell me about their hurt, and they think they're the most hurt person in the world. Another person will have a child that was murdered, and everyone seems to think that their grief is the greatest. And I think that's what you're going through, and Mike's hurt is just as great as yours, and I understand what you're saying, but no, Mike is he's just hadn't. I don't think it's kind of sunk in on him yet, and he knew he had to get busy tonight, but trust me on this one. Your grief is personal to you. That's why you know how much. There's some Mr. Pepper right there. Aren't you glad?
That was actually, I was fortunate enough to have enough energy to, that was actually 2 days before she died.
And see, you've got her on tape now. And then there was Rusty over to the right. But I think we tend to forget that our grief, if it's an animal, if it's a person, anything that is a big loss, ours just seems monumental to us, and I think that's what you're going through. So, and I think you're courageous to express your feelings. That's something we need to do. We need to talk about this. And I think, did you tell me that a lot of people were surprised at the depth of your grief?
Well, the people that were close to me, Joyce, were not, because they knew that she was, she was literally my shadow for 10 years.
Yes.
And I think some of my friends, though, that might not have known the relationship I had with her, maybe, might have thought that I'd heard, I've heard things like throw her in a, just throw her in a trash or whatever. See, I could not get her put to sleep. Could never, people I could not do that.
It's all right, but I told you before, I think that's the mark of a strong man. Now, a lot of people know you as this guy that's running around raising Cain about taxes and all that kind of stuff. They haven't seen this real human side of you, the personal side that loves children and loves dogs, and I think that's what you're revealing, right? I think that's what we're seeing. And I want to tell you, I may have told you this before, but as a woman, I could never love a man that couldn't grieve over something like this, Jeff. I think that makes you more a man than I think you're a strong, loving man, and I'm sorry we've blown your image, you tough guy, but that's just how it is. And if you can't have feelings for your animal, maybe that's why you care so much about people. I don't know. I know you're a really good daddy. You love your children, your daughter and your son, and I think that all this goes hand in hand. And if you love your animal, there's all I can say to you that just makes me appreciate you about 1,000 times. I understand this, and it's okay, and it's good. It's good that you feel this way, sweetheart.
Let me say, Joyce, that I didn't want to leave little Nip Nip by himself he'd already had almost 3 weeks by himself, and
he's lonely.
Yeah, so what we did yesterday, what I did is I have been seeking out some these adoption centers,
mm-hmm.
and I actually went and got a little terrier yesterday, and her name her name was Tasha but I don't know if we'll keep that or what. But,
uh-huh.
She's a nice little dog, we've still got a lot of teaching and coaching, coaching her to do different things. But I just don't believe this theory that you can replace.
Well,
You can replace the dog, but you can replace a dog, but you can't replace that, that relationship.
Yes, but let me tell you something. Glenn and I have had 4 or 5 German Shepherds, and now we have Monty and Winnie. That's Monty Thompson, and Joyce is Winston Churchill. Those are our 2 Westies, and we had a Westie before that we had for 13 years. We brought him over here to Austin with us from Nashville, and his name was Rocky. And when he died, Glenn and I, you've never seen 2 grown people. I mean, it was just terrible. And we just said we couldn't love another Westie like this, but we thought we might want another Westie, and we cried and we cried. But we've had Shepherds, the same thing, and you don't love them the same, but I'm telling you, sometimes I think my dogs just get better and better. And I think the wisest thing and the most loving thing you can do for Pepper is to bring another dog into your life and into your heart and take good care of that dog. It's and I know this may seem kind of silly to you, but have you ever known someone that was married for 30 or 40 years and then they became a widower or a widow, and within a couple years they remarried, and you can say to them, why did you remarry? And they will usually say, I liked being married. I liked the relationship that a man and a woman have when they have a marriage and they have a home together. And I think it's the same thing when you have a relationship. And I'm not making light of marriage, Jeff, but I think when you've had a good relationship, whether it's with an animal or in a situation with a person, when you repeat that relationship, when you can't have that puppy or person anymore, it's a tribute to the previous love. I really feel that way. And I think you're going to be just fine. Sometimes we have to have some hurt in our life, and didn't you tell me you've never really lost a person?
No, I really haven't. As it stands right now, both my parents are living, and my sister's living, and my family's living. Majority of my friends that I knew 30 years back are living. Mm-hmm. So she was actually the first major loss that I've suffered. But I can tell you, Joyce, she to me was just, she was family to me.
Well, she is, that's
right. And, it's just, it really hurt. And it still does.
Well, and it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt. And you just got to hold in your heart.
I don't think I'm going to end up down there at the state hospital or something but anything like that. But I do. And in fact, you have to grow from these types of things.
That's right. That's how you learn to love and let go. Because I guess, Jeff, nothing's forever, is it?
Yeah. That's what I think that's what I've learned in all this.
And I think people that have never lost other people don't realize the finality, how final death is on this earth. Now, I believe in life hereafter, and I even think I'm going to have all my pets because I want them, okay? So I'll have this herd of animals waiting for me. But on this earth, when you have to let someone go, it's final. And I think that's probably one of the learning things, one of the good things that animals do for us. And it's okay to hurt. It's a human thing. But hasn't Nipper felt lonely? Has he been looking for her?
Well, not only that, I think, but he himself is 11 and a half.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And he's getting old himself, and so I'd have, he's probably going to be, not too far down the road, and I will have lost both my babies that I've had for so long.
That's right, but you need but you've got another puppy, and she will be different, and that's okay. She's supposed to be different. She can't replace, but she can certainly give you a whole lot of love that you wouldn't have if you hadn't have gotten her. And I've had animals that did. I know that when Rocky died, I had a big German Shepherd, Conrad, and for days, oh, Jeff, Conrad would look under the bed. He would go look in the bedroom. And until some days the tears, I just had to fight them back because he'd want to go for a walk, and it meant everybody was supposed to go. Rocky always went with us. And so that's when Glenn went out to buy a Westie and called home and said, they've got 2 of them, Joyce. So that's how I ended up with 2 Westies, because Glenn, well, I think they saw Glenn coming, okay, on that one. But it's been, I love my dogs. And I tell you something, I guess one of the things I always laugh about, I say to Glenn, you know, you've got this thing about dogs. Did you ever think about maybe taking up drinking or gambling or running around with women or something that we could get help with? And we just laugh about it. But he's
Too late.
Yeah, too late. And he's such a good man that now you just showed a picture there. Did
Yeah,
you
we're going to get into that in just a moment. Okay, go ahead and get into it.
You see that? You see that young? Did you see Randall?
Okay, we'll go back and get it up there again.
Yeah, because you talk about hurt, and this is one of the things that you learn when you start to love, and you can't live this life in isolation. You have to be part of it, and part of it is gaining people to love, and then you have to let go. And it's just, but Randall, the young man, I'm trying to think, he passed away, what, 3-4 months ago? I can't even think about it. And he was young, and it was very unexpected, and it's been, well, I just don't even, there he is. Now see, we have him forever right there on that tape. And and look at that fat girl sitting in that car. Uh-oh, she's found something right there on her. Yes, somebody left her a glove, don't you see, folks? But anyway, it's a little dumb joke that somebody made up at the station. But when losing, whether it's a pet or a person, and of course they're certainly not comparable. We know the value that humans we have. But loving a pet, I think, is the way you learn to love people.
I'll be honest with you, Joyce. My little baby here meant more to me than a good number of human beings that I know.
Well, but isn't it interesting, Jeff, that your little baby was better than some of the human beings that we've had to come in contact with from time to time? You know that. You know that.
I can say, Joyce, when she died, a part of me died. It'll never come back, and that's, I think, I say that it's permanent.
Well, you know.
But that's okay. I mean, you have to press on, and
give yourself, cut yourself some slack and give yourself a chance. And I'll bet you, in 6 or 7 months, we're going to hear stories about this new little daughter dog you've got, and it's going to be, I just give everybody a chance to adjust a little bit, and it's going to be okay. It's okay to hurt. It's because you're a good person.
Joyce, do you have any other final comments or contributions here tonight? Let me see. Yeah. Hello? Hello? What are we doing now?
Jeff?
Yes.
Jeff, Mike's children had just called, and yes, we did talk about Rusty. And
yes, we did.
And kiddos, I just talked about you because you've evidently had Rusty all of your life. All of your life. Since you can remember what happened to you from the time you were a year or 2 old, Rusty's been there. And this just really hurts. And we're giving you lots of big hugs, right, Jeff?
Yeah, let's, there's my baby.
There's Miss Pepper.
That's
right
my
there.
baby there. And see how she followed me around there, Joyce?
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
And you can take that footage, the whole 25 minutes of that footage, and she's following me around everywhere.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Now, is that Rusty?
There's Rusty right there.
Uh-huh.
He passed away about
this afternoon.
4 or 5 hours ago.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, Rusty was right there. And trust me, we had talked about him, and 2 children are hurting badly. And you just feel like the bottom has just dropped out. I've been there, I know. But it'll be, tomorrow's another day, and it'll get a little bit easier.
It has some. Yeah, it has.
Will. So I'm telling you, us and all our dogs, aren't we something? I thought Winnie would come in here and bark over the phone, but I suspect he's sacked out. He's in with Glenn in another room. They're probably all on the couch asleep. Hard life right here, right? Anyway,
So you're doing all right then, huh,
Oh
Joyce?
yeah, I just have this little periodical thing with my little whiplash in my neck, head, and a little place on my back. It's from having car wrecks, and it was before the seatbelt law went into effect, and it was a nothing wreck, compared to what other people have had. And but it's just one of those things, and it's no big deal. It's just that sometimes it gets the best of me, and but it's not nearly as hurtful as losing a sweet pet. I know.
Well, Joyce, we really want to get you back on down here again now.
Oh, you're going to get me back, and you're always kind because you never mention the dog hair that's always on my clothes. All right, Jeff, I will talk to you later, and kissy, huggy.
Hey, thanks for everything, Joyce. I really appreciate you.
Hey, that's what we're here for, to take care of each other.
Not just with the dogs, but just in general. I appreciate what you're doing with your show and the whole thing.
I try, but don't ever forget, this is where you first start. You learn to love others by loving a pet, and it makes you a good guy, Jeff, okay?
Well, thank you, Joyce.
I love you. Bye-bye.
God bless you, dear. Okay, go ask him if he's going to do the immigration thing now. Because I need a little quick break here. Let's go ahead and go to the immigration break. Hello?
Hello?
Try another call. Hello?
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 Is this Howard?
Hey, buddy, what's up?
What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I seen what happened there on your dog, and I feel sorry about that. I'm glad to see you back on the air and everything, and then I heard a little bit about Joyce's experience with her animals and everything.
Well, you got a few of them yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I really do and everything. I bought a black shepherd back in about probably 5-6 years ago and everything, and his name was Sonny, and he was a well-behaved black shepherd. I mean, I bought him because I'm out of town a lot, and my family, I figured if I'm not there, I need some type of protection for them. You can put an alarm system in your home, but the best alarm system you ever get is a dog and everything. And then the other day I was watching CNN, and they showed me up in Chicago where a neighbor was complaining about another neighbor's dog, and they said the only way to keep them is make them not be able to bark and everything. So they took his voice away from him. And the little kid was real unhappy on TV and everything about it. I just can't believe that the government can tell you that your dog can't bark. I mean, why should you have to buy an alarm system? But what's what mostly upsets me and everything is, if you read the Bible and everything is, what's so sad is a dog can't go to heaven and everything when he dies and everything, because the reason why he don't have a soul.
Well, Joyce Isaacs just would disagree with you.
Well, I would disagree. I disagree with that too and everything, because my dog that I had was completely, he was loyal to me and my family. We had my dog before we ever had our kids and everything. And I lived up in Cleburne, Texas. It's up right outside of Fort Worth, Texas and everything, up there on 35 coming towards Waco, that way. And when it would storm, my dog would get real nervous. And he was a big dog. When he'd stand up, he was probably about 5'4" when he raised up on his back legs like a bear, almost solid black. I mean, you could break into my house as long as you went through my front door and came out the back door. That dog would never bite you. But if that dog was trained, if you came to that fence, that was his guard line and everything. He guarded it and everything. So make a long story short was my neighbor called in one day. My dog jumped the fence during a storm and got on the front porch. I don't know why. He just felt safer there. Because I guess he knew when we came home that he would see us instantly and everything. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was really weird. We came in, and first thing we didn't see was our dog up on the fence, greeting us and everything like he always did and everything, because that was just part of Sonny doing it when we came home with the kids and everything. So I started asking around the neighborhood, I started hunting for my dog and everything. So they said the dog catcher and the police was out there. Mm. So what they done was they tranquilized my dog with too much tranquilizer when they shot him and knocked him down. Now, I lived in a low-rated neighborhood at that time and everything. I wasn't up on my feet like I am right now. And what made the whole community, it was on Channel 4, Channel 5. I had it in 4 or 5 different papers and everything because I was really upset about it. I even protested in front of the police station down there and have it on video because I was so upset over my dog being killed. But what was so weird about it was they said the dog catcher came out and got your dog. So I told my kids, and I came in after I talked to my neighbors, I said, well, you know, Sonny's in jail, and we kind of laughed about it because he got out of the yard, and we kind of just joked about it and went along. So after about 2 days of me trying to consistently call the dog catcher and retrieve my animal back, because he was tagged, vaccinated. I mean, he was a legal dog. If he got out, he was a homeowner's dog. You could tell. He wasn't a wild animal running through the neighborhood killing things or nothing. I mean, he was a big dog, but he was a guard dog. But he was terrified of lightning. And he jumped over on the front porch, like I said, and then the dog catchers came up, and every time they would approach the front porch, my dog would retrieve without a fence being in the front of it, only to his bounder. He would never get out of the yard, and he would retrieve back to the porch as they approached my home and everything. So finally they came to the conclusion that they needed to tranquilize him. So they shot him with a tranquilizer, and, you know, if I was a police officer and you was in a bar, say you was drunk, and you was out of hand, I would shoot you with a stun gun and knock you out. But, Jeff, where's the first place they carry you to? Is to a hospital to make sure your heart will come back up online. They didn't even care for my dog. We went for several days, and I talked to my kids about them being in, you know, in jail and everything. But what's so sad about it was my dog died in the pound. They never notified me or nothing. They took my dog and threw him in a trash dump and buried him under about 15,000 pounds of trash that day. It was in the city of that area. I made them go out and dig my dog up. They brought him back to me in a trash bag. It was run over by a bulldozer. I couldn't even swear to you by God that it was even my dog. But the main thing in my heart was I had something that looked black, and I had something I could take to my family and say, hey, this is Sonny. I'm sorry what happened to him. I made the city carry him 100 miles away from there and bury him in an area out there on it. They do not understand, and but now they do not think that an animal is closest to you. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not a very important man in the world, but I'll tell you something. Your pets is the only thing that will love you no matter what. Your wife, your kids could always go against you, but your pets will always love you. And I feel that in all my heart. And I think anyone that has any pet, and they just passed a bunch of new laws and everything, if Austin, Texas passes a law that they can make a dog not bark no more like Chicago, then we have a real big problem in Austin, because when we stop loving our pets, you might as well stop loving yourself.
Well, I'll tell you, Howard, the particular case with me, I never intended to get that close to her.
You don't have to get that close, Jeff.
It's just one of those things over the years, where you know, she's always there. She follows you around from room to room, and she's always going to bed with you. You wake up with her, An
animal is the most loyalest thing you'd ever have in life, and you most definitely have to treat them very kindly, because the reason why is they depend on you 100%. You are their God. And then all they can do is look up to you unless they are running wild like a pack of wolves. If you love your dogs, they won't run wild.
To me, she was just a very special friend. It's the
best friend in the world you'd ever have. It's the best friend you'd ever have in the world.
Yeah.
And I understand Mike's problem, too. And I enjoy talking to you. I'm dang glad to see you back on the air, buddy.
Well, we're trying, Howard. We're trying.
Well,
she was very, I was not her master. I was not her owner. She was just my friend.
Well, that's the whole part about it. If you ever had a good animal, you do not take an animal, Jeff, and you train it to be your friend or your master. Your children, you have children. How loyal is your children? Your animal's the same way.
Let me throw this one at you, Howard. Over 30,000 dogs and cats are euthanized at the Austin City Inhumane Society on West 1st.
Well,
Adopt an animal, save a life. That's essentially what I did yesterday. I adopted an animal from a non-profit organization.
Right. That's good, Jeff, because you helped that animal. You know what's so sad about the whole thing is everyone can have an animal, but everyone don't control the animal, and you have to have them spaded. I mean, that's your responsibility. It's just like kids. If your son goes out, he throws offsprings all through the town. It's his responsibility to take care of that. So in the same run as an animal, and a lot of people get offended about it, but if you love your animal, you're going to take care of it, and you're going to make sure your animal's healthy, and because your animal is part of your family.
You bet.
Then that's what means everything.
I think that some people, though, let's face it, Howard, some people, some animals are abused. Some keep them just strictly for guard dogs and keep them outside for keep rodents down and stuff like this.
I'll tell you, we have Rockwallers, we have chows too. We had our neighbor across the street from me stole one of my Rockwallers while I was on a canoe trip one time. It was just a pup and everything. What's so sad is in the area I live out here, they have a lot of dog fights. I called the sheriff department on it, and I was real upset about it and everything out here. I still don't talk to my neighbor over it and everything, because if they steal my dog, they'll steal my kids. They steal my kids, they'll steal my money.
Yeah.
I don't want a neighbor like that. That's not the damn neighbor I need. And it's surely not a God-forgiving neighbor. You know what I'm saying?
Can you believe that? Now, I didn't even know this. Where did you all get this statistic here? Who got this statistic? Over 30,000 dogs or cats are euthanized at the Austin City Inhumane Society.
But Jeff,
every year.
But you know what? That's sad, it is. But you know what? A lot of the homeowners that own, if you cannot afford to own a pet and you cannot afford to vaccinate it, you cannot afford to feed it, don't get a pet. Because that pet looks up to whoever is the owner of the pet. And my chow got out not too long and killed a Barbie goat, they said, next door to my neighborhood. Well, come to find out, after I investigated it and everything, we had a pack of wolves that I live in the country came there and killed that goat. But my dog was in that yard. It cost me $50 because I didn't want to put my dog to sleep, because in my heart I knew that dog didn't kill that goat. But when you go against the government on stuff like that and the politics, and some city ordinance is good, some city ordinance is not good. If your dog is tagged and your dog is registered, that is just like a human being out there. Because if you spend the money, you spend the time to go through it, and you get the insurance in case that dog bites someone, you're covered. That dog should not be put to sleep no matter what. He should have a trial just like a human being has, because even though the Bible says they don't have a soul, in my heart, those dogs have a soul. Those cats have a soul.
Do you have the verse on that?
No, I don't have the verse on that. I swear to God, I'm just telling you, look it up in the Bible. I'm not a 100%. It's in Revelations. Look under Revelations.
I've had a half a dozen people tell me, and I personally don't believe it myself, but
I don't believe it either. I don't believe it either. But if you look in the Bible,
I don't believe that. I believe, unfortunately, that we go to sleep, and that's right. Essentially it. That's okay,
I got another little thing. I don't want to jump off the dog story thing here.
No, go ahead, Howard.
Okay. What I've been pulling some information in off my internet and stuff that I've noticed now over the next couple of years that the new computers we're putting out, the government can automatically pull into our computers and everything and pull up anything that we have actually that's so, I guess, be our privacy. I don't know if it is our privacy or not. I mean, we into technology, and I'm kind of an old guy, and I've probably been left behind and everything. I hope I'm not, but I try to stay up as much as I can. But what do you think about that, Jeff? Is that fair for them to pull the technology up just by us being asleep at night? They can just key into my computer and get into it?
I was told that AOL could do that. Has had that technology for years.
But Jeff,
from the information that I've got.
Okay, I agree with that. If you want
to understand that if you want to believe that they are somehow through coercion.
No, it's all the new computers, my friend, being built.
They got chips
between now and year 2000. We'll have a chip in that computer that will pull up anytime they want and link them into your home or into your computer. I can prove it. It's honest God truth.
Well, that's good for the IRS.
Well, I guess it is, because they after my ass. I guess they are.
One more thing here I was handed.
What is it, wild guy?
They didn't give me a number, but countless animals are stolen by individuals and sold to laboratories for research purposes. Sales are held under the Agriculture Commission. Well, anyway, that basically concludes for now our segment here on us animal lovers. Are you still with us, Howard? Or is that somebody else new? Okay. However, I just wanted to reiterate one more time that, first off, our producer, his family lost one of their dogs today. His name was Rusty, and they'd had him for 13 years. And he was my personal favorite of the of their 4. And 3 weeks ago, this Wednesday, I lost a very special friend, Pepper, who I was very close to, and she just was a special dog to me, and she was my baby, and she was my friend. So with that, let's go ahead and go to, can we go to like a short video or something, or before? Yeah, well, I've already, I personally will say, folks, that this show is dedicated to my little baby. Yeah, well, just anything, 8-10 minutes. What's going on, brothers? Hey, what's going on, bro? Okay, we're going to go ahead to which one? Okay, a video on Oklahoma City bombing. And I know this is the two totally different issues, folks, and we're, but we still are an information show. And so we got to stick to the theme, the thrust of the show. However, like I say, for anybody that's ever lost a special friend like this, I can now have an understanding of what the pain that you go through. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the show. What's going on, guys? What is it, 8 minutes? Okay, make sure there's no commercialism.
1997, and I am recording this in order to make an affidavit that what I say is in fact true and correct. 3 weeks approximately ago, I was over to Lizzie Lawton's house, who is a friend of mine, and when I was there, Reed Walcott was also there, and they had a video that was playing in their TV. And on it, there appeared these 2 men.
Let me up close.
I had a picture of, and I had this picture made off of the video. It is not very clear, but the video shows them perfectly. When I saw these 2 men, I asked them to stop the video, that I recognized these 2 men, but that they were not dressed as they are here in this photograph. I have given considerable thought to when and where I saw these men. I first saw this taller gentleman here with the beard. I saw him on Tuesday afternoon, somewhere between the hours of 3:30 and 4:30. As I recall, it would have had to been that period of time. And this was on the April the 17th, or 18th, I'm sorry, April the 18th. And that was on a Tuesday. And he was walking down the hall, coming from the west end on the first floor, going toward passing the GSA offices. He was dressed in a blue shirt and pants, and I assumed he was there replacing one of our regular men for the building temporarily. When and I didn't think any more about it, except that he didn't look like a maintenance man, and I had just totally forgotten about it. And then the following morning, which would have been April the 19th, I saw both of these men as I came to work in approximately 8 o'clock. These 2 men were coming out of the stairwell on the first floor to the west of the elevator. They walked directly by me, probably within 5 feet. Both of these men were dressed in blue pants and shirts. And I thought at the time that they looked so different than our normal men and that GSA has in the building maintenance. And I thought perhaps that the other men either were on vacation, and I thought it was odd that both would be gone at the same time. but I just felt they didn't look like our normal GSA people that are employed in our building. I was asked by the FBI several times if I had seen anybody in the building, strangers, that were maintenance men, were dressed like maintenance people. And I had said no, because I had not thought, when they had talked to me about maintenance, I had thought about, what I was thinking about was some repair person coming in who was with a company. I had not even considered GSA people. And they are, in fact, the building maintenance people. Only when I saw these two men in this photograph did I realize that these are maintenance people, and yes, they were different than the men who are normally servicing in our office and in our building. This photograph came from a video called Cover Up in Oklahoma by Jerry Longspot. I had not seen this video until, as I say, 3 weeks ago. Had no idea until I saw these men. Did it register where and when I saw these people? I can only tell you that they were in that building on a Tuesday afternoon and a Wednesday morning. The taller gentleman, this man right here, was there Tuesday afternoon. He was also there on Wednesday morning. Both of these men were together on Wednesday morning. I wish I could give you more information about them. I do not know them. I only know I was by them and that they were there, and they were dressed like our GSA employees of the building for maintenance. These are not the same three men that I saw in the garage who had what I thought was telephone wiring and a block. It appeared like this, probably 2 by 3 inches or 3 by 4 in that area of a small remote, but it was a putty color, a solid piece of block. I don't know what it was, but they had that, and they had this wiring. When they saw me watching them, they were down there. They had plans at the building, and they were discussing. They were arguing, in fact. Apparently there was a disagreement because one of the gentlemen was pointing to various areas in the garage. They were talking about, I assume, the plans of the building. I thought maybe they were telephone men at first. These three men were not the same as these two men on this picture. They, when they saw me watching them, they took this wiring. It looked like telephone cord. It was putty color. They took that. They took whatever else was in their hand. I don't know what it was. They put all of that back into a paper sack. They put it in the driver's side behind the passenger's seat, behind the driver's side. It was in a kind of, as I would call, a pale green, faded green station wagon. I did give that information to the FBI and to Stephen Jones. FBI did not ask me to look at any pictures. They only wanted to know if I could positively identify McVeigh or Nichols, and I said it was neither of those two gentlemen. I gave them descriptions of the three men, but it was only when I saw this picture of these two men 3 weeks ago did I realize that I had seen these men and that they were, in fact, in our building the morning of and the day before the bombing. And that is my testimony. My name is Jane C. Graham. I am an employee of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I am a facilities management specialist. At the time of the bombing, I was a multifamily asset manager. My offices were on the 7th floor. I had occupied not only the 7th and the 8th floor, but I had just gone to the 9th floor when the bomb occurred. In reflecting this, I want to specify that the first bomb, the first impact was a waving effect that you got when the building was moving. You might have maybe felt a little waving perhaps like earthquake movement, and it lasted for several seconds. About 6 or 7 seconds later, a bomb exploded. There was an entirely different sound and thrust. It was like it came right from the center up. You could feel the concrete floor move a little. The last thing I remember was looking up and seeing the roof being blown off and debris suspended in air, and I was thrown on my back and I became unconscious and debris came down on me, and Sonia Key was on top of that, and Joy McGirt, and both of those individuals took the debris off of me, helped me get up, helped me out of the building afterwards. But there were two distinct events that occurred. The second blast was not only very, very loud, it was also very powerful. And as I said, it felt like it was just coming straight up from the center of the building, straight on up and out. And so that is my testimony, and I will stand by this testimony. And as I say, today is July the 20th, and both of my grandsons are here as a witness to what I have said. Thank you very much.
Hello, Austin, Texas. Are we on? Okay, folks, let me just mention to you what we got coming up here. We've got a couple of people coming in here at about 9:05 or so. We got a bunch of footage. We're going to be talking about this incident in Mexico, on the border of Mexico and America. We're picking up on that. Okay. We're going to be talking about the, apparently there was a young Mr. Hernandez, an 18-year-old Hispanic fella who was shot and killed by a group of Marines. And we have some, what I consider to be exclusive footage, and the people that have actually went down to that location. And we did a short segment on this about 6 weeks ago, and we're going to do a follow-up to it. But it's basically about a young fellow that was killed by a bunch of Marines down near the Mexico border. And we're going to get to that. We also have about 10 minutes of exclusive footage of the pre-trial of Rick McLaren, who many of you know that watch this program, was the ambassador to the Republic of Texas back in May when they surrounded his so-called compound, the DPS. And so we've got that coming up as well. Now there's a couple of news items that I want to talk about here. First off, folks, I want to talk briefly about Diana. The Diana story is very similar to, let's say, when Barbara Jordan or Richard Nixon or some of these other people that have died in the past. And we just talked about my dogs. And just between you and me, folks, my little baby dog, I mourn for her more than any of these people that the world tells us to mourn for. Let me give you an example of this, folks. For two and a half weeks now, we've been hearing about this Diana business. Now, I didn't know this woman. I don't know that much about. I've never talked to her. I didn't know anything other than what the media's feed me about her. So, just between you and me, folks, you know, her death was really just nothing more than somebody that you might read in the obituaries. But for some reason, the world is telling us to mourn. They did this with Nixon, with, like I say, Barbara Jordan, or whatever. keep in mind, folks, that Jesus Christ, when he was crucified on the cross, the majority of the Roman Empire celebrated. They exchanged gifts. The only recorded time in the Bible that they exchanged gifts was right after Christ was crucified. So the point is this, folks. The point is this, folks. I do not necessarily mourn for who the world tells me to mourn for. I believe that if you take the Weaver family in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, if you take the Waco atrocities, the Gordon Call family, Americans who have been killed on American soil by supposedly American agents, in my opinion, folks, that should have been a national day of mourning. However, we are told that we're to accept that. In other words, 90 people get torched in Waco, Texas, and there's no big memorial. In fact, they were demonized, and we were told that we were to accept it. Well, I don't accept it. I don't accept 80-some people getting murdered on American soil, 80 Americans getting murdered on American soil by American agents. I think that, to me, not only should there be indictments for murder, that, to me, is much more of a justification for a nation in mourning than some ruler or some halfway ruler that the world tells us to mourn for. Now, that might seem pretty outlandish to some, but the fact is, folks, that's just the way it is, as far as I'm concerned. There's political prisoners in this country that I believe we should be mourning for. There are people that have been murdered by criminals wearing badges. Some type of law enforcement, and every time that happens, there should be, not only indictments, but there should be a national day of mourning for these incidents. But again, see, we are told to accept it. So we're free to mourn for who they tell us, is the bottom line. We're free to vote for who they tell us, and we're free to mourn for who they tell us. This is the bottom line here, folks, and it's becoming so blatant now that they have absorbed the channels with this now for 3 weeks, and this will go on for weeks and months and months. And again, I am not one that accepts on the surface the idea that I should mourn for who the world's telling me to mourn for. Because like I said earlier, when Jesus Christ was crucified, the Roman Empire, the majority of the people in the Roman Empire celebrated with gift exchanges and whatnot. So oftentimes, the people that the world tells you to mourn for don't have the best track records, and let's just face it, folks. And this is part of what I consider to be making the good appear to be evil and the evil to appear to be good. So I do not accept who they tell me to mourn for, and that's just the fact. Another memorial that they told us to mourn for was in Oklahoma City. Now, no one's saying, folks, that none of these are not. There should be some sympathy to any of these things. What I'm objecting to is the idea that the international media, national media, is dictating to us who we should mourn for, and if it happens to be a bunch of agents going in and killing some Americans on American soil, we're supposed to accept that. That, my friends, is part of the evil in this world that's controlling the modern-day Babylonian Empire, as far as I'm concerned. That's the first issue I want to talk about. Now, secondly, we took a bunch of us went down rafting down the Guadalupe on Labor Day, and you generally get the idea to do that to get away from from law enforcement, just kind of get away, get out on the river, do some rafting, have a good time, get a little adventure. However, our adventure soon, as it transpired, soon became a situation where we found ourselves in the modern day police state, even out on a raft on the Guadalupe. There was several attempts by the River Patrol, and I don't know what jurisdiction they were under, but they had the typical green camouflage uniform. They looked like Marines, and they had canoes out there, and what they were doing was stopping the rafters and the canoers right there, and before you could answer yes or no to their question, do you mind if we check your raft out? They were already siphoning through your ice chest, checking to make sure you had the correct number of life vests, and etc. So the fact is, folks, the modern day police state that we're living under it not only extends from the IRS to your local property tax collectors and your law enforcement that are out ensuring that you have your driver's license, your insurance, your inspection stickers out on the roads. It also comes down to the fact that this is going on now on a quiet little jaunt rafting event down at the Guadalupe River. And this actually was as cynical as I am about government and the police state that we're living under. This actually caught me by surprise. The fact that you can't even go out on a river raft now without being violated by some form of so-called law enforcement. And so anyway, that was the situation there, and that was actually a surprise to me. In fact, as cynical as I am. The next thing I want to just mention here as we move along with our globalist agenda, there's a couple of things that the media has been talking about. One of them is this fast track, and they're selling this fast track thing as a means to give the president a basis for negotiating trade deals through other nations. This whole thing, folks, basically what it does, it sets up a prerequisite to where a president can negotiate a trade deal with another country or block of countries without even consulting with the Congress. Now, this whole thing, folks, whether you want to hear it or not, has nothing to do with trade. This is the smoke and mirrors that we're being told. The fast track program was actually designed back in the 60s, and the intentions of it were, it moves the internationalist globalist agendas world system of control and enslavement into different regions. This creates regionalism. For example, NAFTA created a North American bloc for the Council of Americas, and this GATT essentially created 10 regions, which also created the World Trade Organization, which will essentially negotiate and oversee different trade legislation. So the fact is, folks, this fast track business that you've been hearing about, this is treason. Let's just cut through the crap and let's just tell it like it is. Fast track is part of the globalization of America and the world to regionalize certain economic regions, and specifically when you start talking about Chile and some of these other South and Central American nations, the fast track program that they're trying to con the American people into accepting will help create this new Rockefeller Council of Americas, and will again strengthen the World Trade Organization. Now let me just give you a picture here, folks. Now this is what I consider here to be loyal opposition to the New World Order. If you get my drift. This is the so-called opposition to fast track, and you see that the fast track legislation is essentially being countered by the Teamsters, labor unions. It's being countered under the guise of trade and jobs. That, my friends, is not what this is all about. This is what you call loyal opposition. These are the various front groups that the enemy creates for us and gives us. In this way, by controlling the opposition to these treasonous global policies, they can control both sides. They'll push for the fast track for globalization to the World Trade Organization and ultimately push along their globalist New World Order agenda. But this is, like I say, this is loyal opposition. This story here. Fast track is not about jobs and workers' rights and the environment. Fast track is about global power, global system of enslavement. And the opposition that you see is just the opposition that's required to have to make it appear that there is some type of opposition to giving away America's sovereignty to a World Trade Organization. Although the front groups that are given are not actually countering the issue for what it really is. So this is the smoke and mirrors that were given. The left, right, liberal, conservative, Christian coalition, atheist, the whole sphere of different front organizations and different, supposedly different views that were fed. However, in virtually all of these cases, the enemy created, financed, infiltrated, they've created black and white and control both sides. Now the final thing I want to talk about before we get to the I can't do that because I'm not familiar with that. Oh, I'm not going to say something I haven't studied.
It's from a reliable source.
It doesn't matter. Okay, folks, let me just the final thing I want to talk about here, and I was a guest on several shows back in December of 1995, and I was one of the lone voices that I heard that was against this sending U.S. troops or UN troops to Bosnia. I knew that most of these wars, folks, that we're getting into, whether they be some of the world wars, whether they be the Vietnam, Korean War, whatever, had more to do with setting up global powers and international bankers making money, had more to do with any of that than actually fighting for the U.S. Domestic territory, protecting our national borders, or anything like this. So this has been going on for a long time. So, with this understanding, I was against Bosnia sending our troops to Bosnia back when this first became an issue. If you remember back, it was sold to us that it was a peace thing, and that they would only be over there for a year. Remember that, folks. Remember? And I believe I stated, probably on River City Talk or other shows, that I believe the whole thing was a scam and our troops would be over there for longer than a year. Well, folks, this was like December 95 when they sent them over there, and it's now been closing in on 2 years that our troops have been in Bosnia. And let me tell you essentially what's happening, folks. And I also want to tie in Lady Diana to this as well. She was the one that was supposedly humanitarian. They're feeding us the humanitarian thing about the landmines. Let me tell you what a lot of these nations, like Chechnya, we're doing with landmines. Number one, if they're being invaded by UN forces or some type of global multinational army of some sort, basically what they're doing in many of these little smaller nations is they're fighting to protect their own sovereignty and to protect foreigners from invading their own sovereign nations. Okay, now you have the UN and some of these other things talking about these landmines, and we need to get them all up, and we need to clean up all of these evil things going on in the world and in these other nations. And it's not for humanitarian reasons. Well, folks, much of this is a scam, just like the whole world essentially is a scam right now. A couple of things are happening. First off, UN forces are now torturing people in Bosnia, and this is a side of the media that you'll never, if you do see it, it'd be very rare, and it'd probably be for a glimpse. But the media did tell us one thing this last week, and I was watching the news, and they did tell us this one little thing going on in Bosnia, that the U.S. military now has dispensed 3 electronic warfare planes into the Bosnian region. Things are kind of escalating there a little bit, and the Bosnians are getting a little bit nervous and a little bit sick and tired of foreigners coming in invading their sovereign nation, under the disguise of peace, might I add. But what was interesting about this was that the U.S. now has launched 3 electronic warfare planes, apparently, into Bosnia, and their essential mission is to block out and disrupt what they can call too much anti-UN and too much anti-NATO information that's being disseminated across Bosnia. So now anybody that's got any sense at all, now I know a lot of people out there can't think past what the media is feeding them. Those people aren't watching this program though. But the ones that are receptive to what's going on, if you think about, I don't think the enemy was very tactful in their approach on the story that I saw. If you think of what's happening here, that the UN and NATO should have the right to go into a sovereign nation and block their communication signals because supposedly there was too much inflammatory anti-UN and anti-NATO information being disseminated in Bosnia. Now let me ask you something, folks. Who in the hell is the UN and NATO to decide what is best for what type of information is best for the people of Bosnia to be disseminating? That sounds kind of like what's going on over here, doesn't it? You have your establishment media that feeds you divide and conquer issues of no significance, any type of information that may get out. The things that I talk about is either blacked out or presented as some wild conspiracy theory. So see, here you have it, folks. These people are so blatant now that they are telling you that the UN and NATO is the only source of information that the Bosnian people are privy to. In other words, if they have any anti-UN or anti-NATO information that's apparently being disseminated across Bosnia, then they have the right and should go in and block their communications. And once again, folks, I have to ask you, who in the hell is the people in the UN and the people in NATO to decide what's best for the people of Bosnia and what's best for the information that they should be disseminating for themselves? It's a direct attack on freedom of information, freedom of press, or whatever. But see, here you see the U.S. military and their electronic warfare equipment being used to squelch any type of resistance movement, any type of alternative information. What I would consider to be probably real information is what's going on over there. Our U.S. military now, through the electronic warfare weaponry, is being used to block and destroy their communications. I found that to be a very interesting story that was on one of the national news medias, and of course it's presented to us as in our best interest. You know, we can't have all this anti-UN and anti-NATO information being disseminated, so we need to go in and destroy their communication signals. This, my friends, is essential. This is your world order here at a very high level, and this is your global, this is your elite powers using guinea pigs and puppets and scapegoats and ignorance largely, people, U.S. soldiers and whatnot, to fly their machines, their airplanes, and destroy these signals. So this, my friends, is high-level global power, global grabbers, plutocratic, international banking, elitist, and all their minions at their best. So you've got the fast track, and you've got this the Bosnian thing, which appears to be heating up. And this, my friends, is a local, kind of a local edition of what's actually happening with some of the news. I mean, the Antichrist forces are so powerful and so prevalent, and their propaganda machine is so prevalent that no single show or no single man can counter all of the lies that are being fed to us on every front. However, this is just a small dosage of what's happening in the world today that you probably won't hear from your friends in the national media. Now, with that, we're going to go ahead and move to our guest here.
I love Mike Hanson Archives.
You ready to run? Yeah, you know, I tell you, there's a lot of dangerous people in this country, but we're going to keep you safe from.
You know what I was going to ask you the other day? You know, you always bring up that Reichstag bombing and all that. Do they think about it all happening on April 19th? I don't think they do. It's all. You know what that mask on? I'm not sure I'm talking to Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't worry about us covering up our identity. You know, we're multi-jurisdictional task force, and we're top secret, but, you know...
You know that mask on? I'm not sure I'm talking to Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't worry about us covering up our identity. You know, we're multi-jurisdictional task force, and we're top secret, but, you know, it's to help the children.
Well, of course it is. Hey, man, keep up the good work, and all you listeners out there, if you just turn to this, you're kind of freaked out about it, you need to pay attention, and death to the New World Order.
God bless the Republic! Death to the New World Order! Yes!
Choppers carried out covert government missions for years. Now the people of one Texas town are out to expose what they call a conspiracy.
There was a black helicopter spraying some white powder.
It's bizarre. It's like an invasion.
What's behind this helicopter hell?
A lot of people in the Lone Star State coming up with a lot of conspiracy theories. Steve Langford reports on the helicopters and health problems that have hit Austin.
It's the sound.
It sounds just like a tornado.
They were so loud that they shook the windows.
That's how they know they're back.
It was huge. You could see the machine gun mounts on them and everything, and they were black.
The black helicopters.
9 children all came down sick at the same time.
The whole side of my car was just covered with dead gnats.
Austin, Texas is a peaceful, laid-back kind of place, just like its favorite son, Willie Nelson. At least it used to be. Until the black helicopters arrived.
It's bizarre. It's like an invasion.
Suddenly, people all over Austin started seeing them, with some saying they'd been harassed and maybe even poisoned by the things.
I can confirm black helicopters are swarming all over Texas and the rest of the U.S., harassing citizens, police, anybody that gets in their way. Black helicopters, the strike force, the New World Order.
Alex Jones is a popular radio talk show host with Austin's KJFK, and he's been investigating and reporting on the mysterious black helicopter phenomenon for years.
It reads like a science fiction novel, but it's really happening.
Until recently, the government, the military, and law enforcement had denied the very existence of black helicopters. But now, authorities concede there really are such things.
Yes, black helicopters are real. They're here to take care of you. They're for anti-terrorist training.
But Jones and others suspect the black helicopters are the real terrorists.
You're talking about SS Cavalry right here in America.
The sinister-looking unmarked choppers have been reported buzzing homes, following motorists, landing unannounced in schoolyards, and even dropping a mysterious white dust on Austin neighborhoods.
See, it smears like paint.
Norma Rubel says her car was covered with the stuff after a black helicopter flew over her house.
Looked like somebody took a spray painter and sprayed it.
City officials examined the mysterious substance and declared it cedar ash from a nearby forest fire.
There's no way it looked like cedar ash.
And she says nobody can explain what else she found on her car. Thousands of dead gnats.
Something killed him.
Meanwhile, others who have seen the black helicopters fly over their homes say the dust might have poisoned them.
All of my kids and myself all got sick with stomach trouble.
And the Hopkins family suspects a government cover-up.
I think most people would like to be able to just say, well, our government would never do that.
Alex Jones insists it would.
They've tested what's been sprayed out of the helicopters. It has salmonella and other type bacteria that you would find in garbage.
Jones suspects it's all part of secret government preparations for a possible state of emergency.
We see a lot of indicators that the military is preparing for martial law.
And Jones is not alone.
Government has more control than they need, and I think that the black helicopters probably have something to do with it.
We're in the equivalent of 1936 Germany. Hitler's just now getting his power, and they're getting ready to really clamp down.
Well, hello, folks. Stay tuned right here on this channel, Hanson Archives, for more classic Alex Jones, Jeff Davis, and all the other good patriots fighting the good fight for the last 25, 30 years, and hopefully death to the New World Order. Stay tuned right here. Be sure to write us there at that address if you can help us get these archives up quicker, and our phone number's there if you need to get a hold of us. Thanks a lot, and God bless. Continue to watch our ongoing series here on Mike Hanson Archives and Hanson Archives.